When we go back to 1914, nobody ever considered aerial warfare. But unfortunately for Britain, Germany had a fleet of Zeppelin airships. And as Ramsgate's only 30 miles from the North Continental coast, Ramsgate proved to be quite an easy target. And they raided Ramsgate quite a few occasions, but on one particular occasion, they raided the town late one evening, dropped bombs around the town centre, destroyed a hotel, killed 3 people. But then if you move on a year, 1916, it got worse. If you can imagine a nice, bright, sunny Sunday morning, and a group of children on their way to Sunday school, and they were strafed and bombed by 2 German seaplanes. Now 5 children were killed, 10 were seriously injured, 2 adults were killed. And of course this caused outrage not only here in Ramsgate, but throughout the country, that they were killing school children. But move on another year, 1917, by then Germany had the Gotha bombers, quite big biplanes and capable of carrying quite a heavy bomb load. They raided the town in August, got 28 bombs, and they killed 28 people. But then moved forward to the mid-1930s, Adolf Hitler's controlling Germany, and again there's talk of possible war in Europe. And the government asked particularly the seaside towns along the southeast coast here to look at their defences should there be another war. Because in the First World War, Ramsgate, the somewhat dubious honour of being the most heavily bombed seaside town in Britain. So much so actually that in 1917 the government actually drafted in 100 men from Northumberland Fusiliers to provide some shelter for the inhabitants of Ramsgate, and they did. They dug a lot of trenches in the local parks, but they dug one here, just over there, on your left or my right, they dug a trench. But they also dug a number of tunnel systems, mainly under the schools or big places of business. So schools like St George's, Chatham House, Ellington School, Clarendon House, all had tunnel systems dug under the school or under the playing fields. But of course, we were lucky here, 1936, a man turned up in Ramsgate to take up the position of borough surveyor or borough engineer. Now sadly, this man is largely lost to history, but his name was Richard Brimmel. He moved down from Leicester to say to take up that position, but one of the first things he asked when he got here, almost, was to come up with some plan to protect the inhabitants of Ramsgate should there be another war. Now he obviously knew the tunnels back in 1917, but he came up with a much more elaborate plan. And had he got his first plans passed, it'd be well over 5 miles of tunnels. They got them right to the extremity of the town, right to the football ground on the west side of town, right up to Whitehall Road or the Margate Road, right up to the railway station, top of Prince's Road. But 3 large sections were never sanctioned by the government, so therefore they were never done. But when he first presented his plans to council, they looked at them and said, yeah, very impressive, that's what we need. But sadly, too expensive, we can't afford it. So he went away, cut his plan down to 3.5 miles, again presented to the council, but more or less got the same answer, still too expensive. But then in 1938, Ramsgate elected a new mayor. Now you may not have heard of Richard Brimmel, but you may have heard of the Mad Mayor, Top Hat Mayor, Arthur Kent. And he was known as the Mad Mayor because of the antics he used to get up to in the council meetings, or particularly whenever there was a pageant or a carnival in the town. He'd be in the parade dressed as a knight of St George or a pirate or whatever was the theme that year. So he was an exceptionally tall man, about 6'6" tall, but also, you may guess, a very big personality, big flamboyant sort of character. But just the sort of character Brimmel needed. And together, they managed to get their plans passed by the council. But then, they had to petition the Home Office for permission to dig, and hopefully for the money. And would you believe, twice more they were rejected as there wasn't going to be a war. But they didn't believe it. They persisted. And early 1939 they managed to get a face-to-face meeting, Home Office Minister Herbert Morrison, along with other ministers, Richard Brimmel, Arthur Kemp, Alderman Huddleston, Society, Chief of Police, went up to London for this meeting. And we're told it got pretty lively. And Kemp, being the sort of character he was thumping the table in frustration, saying, Complete waste of time. A lot of talk, but we get nowhere. I'm going to speak to my MP. Well, his MP is Captain Balfour, and he must have had quite some influence with the government, because within 2 weeks of that meeting, they not only got permission to dig the tunnels, but also £44,000, which is the lowest estimate to do the job. The estimate put forward by a company called Francois Cementation. Albert Francois, the boss of the company, was actually a Belgian-born mining engineer. And he recruited a team of about 80 men. A lot of those men were miners or ex-miners. And they started work down on the Westcliff there, saw earlier, early March 1939, and by September that year, all the tunnels were done. After Ramsgate's worst day of the war, which was 24th of August, he was damaged in his town, but also at Manchester. And while he was here, the sirens went. There's an air raid coming. I'm moving out the tunnels. I'll show you a photograph of him coming out of a hotel, sitting on Harbour Parade. And one thing you'll probably notice is that he just lit a cigar. So I've got sirens going, they're heading towards the new offensive, just like the one behind me. So having got here, I got to the entrance, the top of the steps, the sunny steps forward and said, "Sorry Mr Churchill, you can't come in." Now you can imagine saying no to the Prime Minister, because he then had to explain himself. He said, "Well, we've got rules here, Mr Churchill, and one of the rules is there's no smoking allowed in the tunnels." Now poor old Winston, we're told, was not too happy about that, but after a few grumbles, he did throw his cigar away, mumbling something like, "There goes another good one." But it's immediately pounced on by a couple of workmen stood there. They broke it in half and took half each. Now whether they smoked it, whether they kept it as a souvenir, we don't know. I should say, to be perfectly honest, there's about a dozen stories concerning that incident. That's just one of them. So if you come again, but get a different guy to get a different story, any of them could be true. We just don't know really. But as I said, this is we stopped here, this is the entrance there. But now we're going to go up Westcliff Road, because obviously the tunnel goes up Westcliff Road, until we get to the corner of Marlborough Road. And there we'll find out another little point of interest. It has a bit more like Spaghetti Junction when we get there. There's always like Spaghetti Junction here, because you've got a tunnel going down there, down to the entrance there, tunnel going that way through Anarchy Street, another tunnel going all the way up there to the hospital. And there's one big difference about the entrance of the hospital. Although there are 12 entrances, mostly in public parks and public places, all the entrances have staircases, apart from the one at the hospital. Now, the one at the hospital was dug on a very long, very shallow series of slopes. The idea being, whenever there was an air raid, patients could be wheeled out of the wards, in their beds or wheelchairs, down the slope of the tunnel for safety, and the all was down and put the back up the slope and back up. And they do have a fully equipped treatment. And when we get to the end, when we get back in the tunnels, if you go to one of the touch screens and you go to the end of the hospital entrance, one of the pictures that comes up is two beautiful white tiles underground. It looks better than it actually is. It's actually very good. It's not actually white tile. So you mentioned airshaft earlier on. That was the second plan. But just thinking about the whole tunnel system, it's actually dug at grade 1 and 2 meters. 12 entrances, 4 day and night. But if person wasn't entirely sure, one of the excavations being completed, they concrete lined the shaft. No, it wasn't. It was ventilation shaft. But as time went on, it was proved to be right. So it was never actually put into use. So all there is the top that you see there is a manhole cover. rather than the pipe with the cowling on the top of it. But it would have been difficult to put one in the middle of the night. Since 1939, this whole layout of the road here has been changed. And the tunnel actually goes straight across the road, just to the left of that building, into what is known as Thompson's Passage. This road wasn't actually here in 1939, it was actually here. So it goes that way, so we're going to cross the road, pick it up again in Thompson's Passage. A ventilation shaft. And it's the only ventilation shaft, or purpose-built ventilation shaft in the whole system. Because they did have a little bit of a problem here with the ventilation. And there's a groove in the wall down there, and obviously it's been removed since, so you can't actually see it. Because now the tunnel goes all the way up there, up Ellington Road, right up into the park. There's two entrances up there in the park. And that's excavation shafts 9 and 10 as well. They're actually in Ellington Road. Well, we're going to go now, turn right as you can be right. In the 1980s, when the water board needed to put a new main sewer in, as well as development around St Lawrence and Newton area, they chose to put it down through the tunnel. So now we've got a 6-foot wide tunnel with a 5-foot diameter pipe going right the way through it. So unfortunately, we'll never actually be able to get into that. But in 1955, what was one of those Cold War years, there was a plan actually to reopen the tunnel if necessary, and the plan was then that we would actually widen the tunnel rather than try and squeeze past it. They were going to dig the tunnels out 6 foot wider to allow passage right up again up to Ellington Park. But of course, that was never done. That would have been a great thing with some nuclear war. You think we're drawing in air and water from outside. So although the tunnels vary in depth from 30 feet to 100 feet, average depth is 70 feet underground. As I say, as a nuclear shelter, it's been pretty easy. As was, you may not. Have you ever been to Dover Castle?
Yep.
You've done the dumping level down there? Exactly the same at dumping level. Once they dug that, they thought this has been a waste of time, really. Because they're drawing in water out from outside, they're drawing in air from outside. So everything's going in there would have been polluted. So a complete waste of time.
Couple doors down on the left-hand side, because we've just moved in, so that's all to do with that work now. Another guy around and he was working over 3-4 weeks ago, and he was doing stonework. One of his guys called him and went over and they'd come across one of these concrete slabs in the garden. And when they moved it, it just went down. And I said to them,
Keep an eye on that.
what are we going to do about it? Thrown over it? Yeah, thrown over it. My parents used to do it.
So we stop here because the tunnel system comes up a cannon road through the entrance here in the canal, and where I'm standing now, or we're all standing more or less, this was the entrance into the tunnel system just here. But you might think you come in there straight to the entrance, but in fact it doesn't. Although you come into the tunnel there, you walk all the way across the corner of the park there, over there, and then come all the way back up here, down here, so that you get to the entrance. Now of course there's a good reason for that. If you're coming from there, there's not enough room to get to right-angle turns in, or to get the depth. So that's why it goes right round all the way that it does. But while we're here, now we've got fairly quiet. So take it back to the 24th of August, 1940, to the Ramsgate's worst day of the war. So there's never been a raid like it before. It's the first of what become known as the Blitz raid. Because initially, Ramsgate was not the target. Their main objective was to destroy the RN and the airfield. Irish Mansion was only 2 miles out of town, and that was the principal target. But in fact, on that Saturday morning, being so heavily bombed earlier in the day, So the whole area was covered by a huge cloud of smoke and debris. But later bombers coming in couldn't actually see the target. So of course they didn't drop their bombs in the middle of the open farmland. So they flew over the channel, regrouped, come for another fire. But as they approached Ramsgate across the bay, there was an armed trawler out the bay, named the Arctic Trapper. And she was armed with a pretty heavy gun. And whether by good fortune or good shooting, we don't know. We did shoot down not only the squadron leader, but also his backup, his second in command. So then, of course, the whole squadron then lost their leaders. Weren't really sure what they should do. We tried to match it again. Well, some people say retaliation for losing their leaders. They dropped the whole bomb load on Ramsgate. But for whatever reason, that's exactly what they did. In less than 5 minutes, they dropped somewhere between 500 and 600 high explosive and incendiary bombs on the town. Now, huge areas of town absolutely devastated. In that one raid alone, 80 houses in Ramsgate were completely destroyed, and over 1,000 were so badly damaged they deemed to be uninhabitable. Do you think 1,080 houses lost? What about the death toll? I told you in the First World War, 28 bombs killed 28 people. 500-600 bombs, you might have thought hundreds of people would have been killed. But in fact there wasn't. There were 29 civilians and 2 servicemen killed in that one particular raid. But what's even more remarkable is throughout the whole war, the total death toll in Ramsgate, from bomb or shell fire. The shell fire in Ramsgate, big problem. Just the heavy guns are railway guns at a range of 50 miles. Ramsgate's only 30 miles away, so well within range. And of course, planes coming over, picked up by radar. You could have anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes to get under cover. But with shells, you didn't. You got the explosion from the shell before you knew it was coming. But total death toll in Ramsgate throughout the whole war, from bomb or shell fire, was 84 people. So it gives you some idea now of the value of these tunnels. And I hope now you're beginning to appreciate quite how complex they are. When you've got to think the various spurs, the gardens, squares, the towns, we're in this lot here. But what we do now, we still follow the rules of the tunnels, of course. You might go to be surprised with the way you do. So,
up right down a tree.
There's a load of fitness occurred because we've got a that was a guy down there. It was a fireman, so he used the fireman. Now just be careful here, because the
Cheers.
Blaze and light that will make
everybody here?
down the actual torches.
Right, now just before we go down, if you look back at the entrance you just come in, see that wall directly behind you? That wall there that you're standing next to, that is original. Now that was built 1939. You see the lintel across the top? During the war there was a gas retardant curtain hanging from those hooks there. And also this is the only entrance that actually had a blast door fitted. But it does make sense, because as you saw as you come down, just across the road, is the old gasworks. Of course, had there been a big explosion here, or there, it could very well have done a lot of damage down here in the tunnel. But this is the only entrance that did have a blast door fitted. And we had that confirmed a few weeks ago by an old lady. Well, she was a young lady during the war, but she was 94 years old now. And we always suspected that there had been a blast door there. And when she came round, and we showed it to her, she confirmed our suspicions that there actually was a blast door. But you see that second wall there? That was built by council, the late 50s, early 60s, to stop what we've termed urban explorers getting into the tunnels. And we're told, before the mortar was dry, a hole appeared in the middle, and over the next few days that hole got bigger and bigger, and before the weekend, the kids were back in the tunnels again. So again, something was a wasted effort there, but they did try. But as you saw, they did eventually seal the whole system by putting those reinforced concrete beams running across the entrance. And they are extremely heavy. You wouldn't want to try and lift one of those around, or even with a dozen mates. But if you look at the wall here, you'll see the evidence of what we term urban explorers. Various names, dates, little messages that you'll see on the wall as we go down. There's this corner here, the message there which reads, "This way for John Sperry Grotto." The message on the wall there. And if anybody remembers the names of Radio Caroline, they were, a lot of their Radio Caroline here on the wall. And apparently, a lot of the DJs that were on there at the time also left their names on the wall here, somewhere. But there you go. Urban explorers. Now, next thing you know, there's a unity structure here in the corner. Now, this structure here, this was the ambient pond station during the war. Because one of his duties was to make sure that people stuck to the rules. Which basically means there's no eating, no smoking, no swearing, no spitting, no pets, no prams or pushchairs allowed in the tunnels. If you think about it, people brought food in, and you think after that 24th of August, there was over 1,500 people come down in the tunnel system to sleep every night. Because people left bits of food laying about, very quickly attracting vermin. Because if you're sleeping down there, probably the last thing you want running about would be rats or mice. No smoking, no swearing, no spitting, public decency, no pets. If you can imagine, I'm sure you'll get to appreciate this as we go around it, but you only had half the walking space during the war that we have today, because the whole right-hand side of this tunnel system, apart from the entrances here, would have been lined with benches and bunks. So of course, a couple of dogs come down here, disagreed, started fighting, big chaos. Also, if anybody tried to bring a pram or a pushchair in, because you go back to the 1940s, we didn't have these nice little buggy prams that people have today. You had a pram then, they were really big old things. And of course, a pram would have completely blocked up the whole system. So again, there's a very good reason for the rules that they had. And they'll become more and more apparent as we go through. So, if you look at the walls, you may notice that the child figures here.
That's so cool, isn't it? that's absolutely gorgeous.
Now, looking round, everybody looks to have actually done this, but if you go back to the top 60s, 70s, quite a pleasant thing to do now and again was have what you call cheese and wine parties. We go out and buy a variety of cheese, a variety of wine. You'd invite all your friends and neighbours round, you sit around all evening, eating the cheese, drinking the wine, and just talking. And it'd be quite a pleasant way to spend an evening now and again. And it happened down here. We've got a message on the wall here which reads, "Good cheese and wine, Hugh." But how do we get out? Well, simple. We will eventually get out. You follow me, don't worry. I'll take you there. Now, when we was up on the surface, go for the excavation charge for that. And just to my right, now, was the excavation shaft number 7. And number 7 is right where that blockage is there. Because in 1956, there was the first water main on Boundary Road, just outside the old gas works. And it caused the infill around shaft number 7, the actual tunnel. But we do hope in the not too distant future that our engineers will tunnel through there, reinforce as we go. And when we do, it gives access to another 2 miles of tunnel. And that would be really quite interesting, because there's lots of bits of interest the other side of that blockage. But you see that concrete pillar there? You look behind that concrete pillar, on the left, see this huge galvanised water tank. Because if you needed water for washing or brewing a pot of tea or whatever, that's where you come to get your water supply. Because although toilets were provided, there's no washing facilities. So you have to make your own arrangements. And we're told my most normal arrangement was something what they used to call tops and tails. So you strip off to the waist and you wash down to the waist, you get dressed, because it's pretty cold down here, it's only constantly 11 degrees. And then you strip off the rest and you wash the bottom half. The difference here, that this section is all reinforced concrete as we go through. A real good reason for that is because at the moment, or very shortly, we're going to be going underneath the traffic lights, the bottom of Boundary Road, Hereson Road. At that point, we're only 30 feet underground. And Bristol wasn't sure if 30 feet ashore would be sufficient to contain any bomb blast. So that's why this whole section here is actually lined with reinforced concrete. Now, don't try and lick the diamonds. Obviously they're not diamonds. Bring school children around here and you say, oh, look at the ceiling, it's all studded with diamonds. They get really quite excited. Till one jumped up and he brushed his hand across and got a freezing cold shower, which actually, of course, it's condensation. But it does sparkle. Okay, follow me. And this little tunnel here is something of a mystery, because this doesn't appear on any of our original maps of the tunnel system. But right down the far end there is an excavation shaft, and the miners know exactly where to put that one. Because if you're coming down Hereson Road, you may notice the pub for the Elephant Castle. That shaft comes up right behind the pub. There's a very good reason for that. The miners weren't silly, were they? But you see all that chalk in the central section there. Well, we are told, the story goes here that this is one of the favourite entrances for our urban explorers. And the stories go that they lift the manhole cover, drop a rope down, abseil the 30 feet down, bring in their party gear, their cheese, their wine, their cigarettes, whatever. Which is fine. But if you've been down here partying and you've had a few pints of beer or glasses of wine, it's a lot harder to get up a rope 30 feet than it is to come down. So we're told they got stuck here, which meant the emergency services had to be called to rescue them. They got fed up with it, complained to the council and said, you've got to stop the kids getting in. So they tried to tell us, the council has done hundreds of tons of chalk, that you see in that central section there, to stop the kids getting in. But it just doesn't make sense, because the shaft was still accessible. So we think what really happened is that when the miners got towards the end of digging this tunnel system, they realised they didn't need the shaft for ventilation, so they just didn't bother taking out the last few hundred tons of chalk. They just left it there. Now that makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? Well, you see there, propped up against the wall, 2 sections of track. Now you may not recognise it, but that's railway track. Now it is made in sections, which means you can bolt the pieces together and you had your instant railway. And it's exactly the same, apparently, that was used in the First World War to get troops and supplies up to the front line. And in those days it was known as the Jubilee line. But once we get this sorted out, we're going to start using that track to set up an exhibition here, using the tracker truck and a couple of mannequins to play the part of the workmen. So which will add another little bit of interest to the tunnel too. So that's it is very much work in progress here. We're trying to improve and add different things all the time. And if you in 2014 when we first started, first of all we had was a chalk tunnel. That was it. It was just down to the guides there.
Yeah, no, what you're doing is a really good thing. Honestly, it's good.
Yeah, everything then. Yeah, all the touch screens, the telephones, and everything we've done since. Okay, well, a little bit further.
That's the first time I've seen that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Last time we were down here, honey, in 2014, that was just chalk.
They realised they had to get water
Didn't,
Yeah, a lot of people do that the other week.
Yeah, I saw a skip at the entrance the other week, yeah. I've not seen that before.
Feel free if you want to come down and bring a shovel.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a work.
No, you're not open yet.
We had a work party here last week. So again, it's down on the
Come on, Jeff, give us some money shot. Hang on, let me get closer, otherwise we won't know it's you. Good man.
I've taken a couple, mate. But
I'm trying.
with the bright lights, you can't.
I'm taking the pictures as I video, so. Hang on, let me. If we come back, or because I could do the photographs on the way back or not, I don't know. We'll see. Let's catch up with the rest of the group.
Do you run tours now?
Yeah, we do. We was going to do one the other month. You want me to
No, we're coming.
Keep your eye on the website. Yeah. Only do about 4 or 5 a year. But yeah,
No, I was just saying, just take a bit of care because there's a puddle here just on the left-hand side.
Oh, will.
So, why? It's not big, but you might get wet foot distracting it.
That's got to be the first tunnel puddle, isn't it? Oh, here we go, yeah.
Well, that one's always there. We think that we're probably close to the water table. That one always seems to be red. But a lot of this, where it's really uneven, is where it's pushing through. And sometimes, if it has been raining on top, you can find some particular rolls. Yeah, well, this is just
compacting earth.
Yeah, it's compacting earth and sand, yeah.
And here we are, guys, in the chalk line part.
Yeah, try to go inside there and look up. Hold on to your hat, keep your torch down and just look up. And a bit like to see a pair of eyes looking down at you.
And get wet.
Hold on to your hat.
Pan fine if you drop your hat. There's one pan.
Oh, Jeff.
That's Jeff. He can get fined £2.
And if you're lucky, they wink at you sometimes.
Oh, come on, Jeff, stop hogging it.
This has got me in there yet. Come on.
We're hungry for it. Oh, it's a bit drippy, isn't it? Hey.
Glad my phone's waterproof.
Here we are, guys. I'm not going to be able to see up that because I haven't got the long distance lighting, but.
Yeah, well, you get a picture.
No, I just took some video of it. So. Yeah, that's all right.
No, because what you're seeing there, actually, you're seeing the where the excavation shafts are up on the surface, and this is what they're like underground. Just saying earlier on that you wasn't sure about ventilation. So once all the chalk had been taken out, there was 65,000 tonnes of chalk taken out of the tunnel system, taken up the shafts, loaded up the lorries, and they took it to the west side of town, which is dumped from the foreshore over there.
Yeah,
Because chalk's been relatively soft, most of it's now been washed away by the tidal action. But I'd say once all had been done, the concrete lined the shaft, the possibility of using it as a ventilation shaft, but never needed, so therefore was never put into use. So as you saw on the surface, all those on the top, just an extra.
That's what water here.
Okay, anybody else want to have a look in there? At the moment, so when we're under, come through the tunnel there, the concrete section, we're 30 feet underground. Where we are now, we're 40 feet underground. But as we go on, then the road surface above goes up quite rapidly. And when we get to Westcliff, we're going to be 100 feet underground. And that's one of the deepest parts of the whole system.
It's when it's raining.
So see the sunlight, can't you? Just as it flashed in the photo.
It's all been lit up here, hasn't it?
So I'm going to take 3 to actually get all that work.
Please feel free to walk around me. I'll be here all day otherwise.
And when we went down the dumping level, they said, look, you can take photographs, but they must never be published. And when you think that, you can understand why. Because they were published, nobody ever paid 45 quid when they put it down there.
No.
Two there, 2 more there, and over this side, 2 there, 2 there. Now, any idea what they're there for? Because everything down here in the tunnels has also had a purpose. Any ideas?
Oh, it's like wood, isn't it?
Yeah. No ideas?
No.
Well, as I said earlier, how do you know where you are when you're underground?
Oh, yeah, signposts.
So what they did during the war, they took the street signs down from above and put them up down here in the tunnels. Because not only did people use these as a shelter, but they also used them as a thoroughfare to get around the town. Do you imagine there's so many damaged buildings, you never knew when something's going to fall down, or a building was going to fall. So it's not safer to use the tunnels to get around the town than it was to walk on the surface. And that's what they did. It was also supposed, we're told, to confuse the Germans, so they, if they ever did get us draws, because they wouldn't know what street they was in. But I don't really think that would have made a great deal of difference to you. Well, if you look up there, you see another staircase. That's Arco Square. And this Arco Square is one of the deepest parts of the whole tunnel system. There's actually 3 staircases up there. You see the first one? Top of that right over turn, second staircase, second right over turn, and the third staircase before you get to the surface. So very long staircases up there. And I can tell you from my own experience that if you do have to go up there at any time, and you get 90 years and you've got arthritic joints, it's not a lot of fun, I tell you. By the time you get up the first flight, you know you've done it. But while you're here, I can tell you one little story about this entrance here. During the war, on the 24th of August, the chap was shaking. They come down the Wardens Tunnels, 24th of August 1914, and it was not shaking.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It's his fault.
No, you will notice every so often these alcoves. Now there are 250 of these alcoves throughout the whole tunnel system, and during the war, in each alcove, there were 2 chemical toilets. Now, although they were side by side, you didn't have to talk to your neighbour, because they very thoughtfully put asbestos screens between the 2, And across the front here, was just a hessian curtain. And you can see here the studs in the wall when the hessian curtain was attached. And of course, two chemical toilets need to be serviced, don't they? And guess what? Who serviced them? It wasn't Ramsgate. It was two men from Margate Borough Council who took on the job. Now why Margate did the job, we don't know, but they did. And for the first year, they employed it for nothing. But thereafter, until the end of the war, Margate charged Ramsgate 2 shillings and 6pence a week for the service. Now today's money, that's 12.5 pence, isn't it? So I think Ramsgate got a real bargain there. So I would like to refer to this. Can you imagine, you've got the toilet there, bunks here, benches here. Ramsgate's first attempt is an ensuite. Perfect, isn't it? Of course, like the toilet's right next door. Or is it? Well, actually, if you've been down here during the war, it probably wasn't very sweet, because we are told, from people that had experience down here, that it got pretty pungent at times, because if you can imagine, this whole system could accommodate 60,000 people. But probably the most that was ever down here for a day, at any one time, has been near 30,000. But even so, 30,000 people were down here for a day. That means it's just over 50 people for every toilet available. So you can understand why the atmosphere did get pretty pungent at times down here. So it was safe. That was the priority. Safety was a priority. Everything else was a very close second. Okay? Yeah, it's 6 foot wide, 7 foot high, you notice the lighting? And literally the whole system of this tunnel is there. Well, after a few weeks of the test project, the electricity bill, it was a bit high. We need to save some money here. Now, apparently they tried to negotiate a better price with the electricity company, but they didn't want to know. So we're told in an effort to save money, Ramsgate Council actually took out every other light bulb. So instead of a 140 watt bulb every 25 feet, they got 140 watt bulb every 50 feet. So just enough light to see where you're going. But if you wanted to read a book or paper, you'd have to bring additional lighting with you, of course. Whether it's a candle or hurricane lamp or torch or whatever you had. But I'm told even if you had a torch, it's very unlikely that you'd actually get the batteries to put in it. So it was probably candles or hurricane lamps. And you notice on the wall where there's black marks on the wall where people have parked their candles. Just put that little bit of extra lighting. And where I'm at the flat roof doors, if you look at it, there's very nice little figures next to the dirt. You could be just initials or names or notes or symbols. Still birds.
Cheers, thank you. Just gives it that additional lighting, that's all. I know what you mean though.
Not very exciting, but you might like, there's obviously a fish mark there, you can see where the pig head went in there. But if you look at it, somebody's made a pattern in there, because of the poison club. There's little wings in there. And if you're down here in semi-darkness, what do you do to pass the time? You know, you make patterns like that with bottle tops. And once we get to the other blockage back there, once we get through there, somebody, or some people, have made quite a lot of work on there by sticking bottle tops into the chalk. There's all sorts of patterns and figures there, all made out of bottle tops, just stuck into the chalk. So it'll be quite nice when we get through there. There's a lot more to see on the other side of that blockage. which we have to do, probably next year, if not later this year. But it's in our forward plans. If you look at it, there's all the conditions over here. But I'm not quite sure what they're doing, but what we need to hold that. But you can see down here, if you look here, where somebody started to do an angel here. They've got two wings, head in the middle there. No, they never quite finished as well. Well, there's lots of that there. Loads and loads of people here. Now, yeah, as I probably showed you, we probably did that, didn't you? We plain those acrosses. And we got quite a few examples of that, but that's the best one, that's the easiest one to see. But like I say, if you're down here in semi-darkness, you've got to do something to pass the time, haven't you? And that's what the kids do, play those acrosses. Now that was fine, by one of our young lad, David, at 16, and his eyesight's a lot better than ours. If I stopped here and point out a bit of graffiti on this side, which gives the date the 20th of the 2nd, 42. That's by I.W. Squires. So I stopped here to point this out. You see that column? He said, I've just ran another bit. 28th of December, 1939. Now, very shortly, we're going to be going into what basically is a railway tunnel. But of course, there's a big history to this railway tunnel, because not only was it a railway tunnel, but when the council took a census at the end of 1940, there was actually 324 families that gave Ramsgate Tunnels as their permanent post of address. And that consisted of 957 people living permanently in this tunnel system. Now obviously, to be able for people to shelter from bomb raids and to sleep. It's never intended for people to actually live down here. So where did they live? Well, very shortly, you follow me, we'll show you what became known as Tunnel Town, or what the American journalists referred to as a squalid little gypsy camp beneath the town around it. But that's the Americans for you. Wasn't like that at all, really.
Oh yeah, I got it there, yeah. Nice.
And here come around basically 1939, to open the first 400 yards of the tunnel system. It's critical the Westcliff around the first system. Now, look at the photographs on this side. Got a number of people come to live down here. Initially, the only people allowed to sleep down here were the people in reserved occupation. They were issued with a pass, and all the passes were numbered, as you see there, to the boat number 301E. There, the barber lost his business on the surface, so set up in one of the excavation shafts around that tunnel system. Next to it, children's Christmas party. Now that was taken Christmas 1940 on the Liverpool lawn, which is right when you went down the road. Now I've told you about the number of people who come to live down here. See the photograph there? When they first come down, they mark off their own little bit of private space, you can see there, which is fine during the day, but because come at night time, you need somewhere a bit more private to sleep. So they started constructing, you see there, their own little house from home. Now I think it's all made out of waste material, whatever they can find around the town. That's what they use to make their home. Notice the railway track there, right in place, right throughout the wall. Right throughout the wall, I should say. Sorry, we're doing this here, aren't we? But what we're trying to reproduce here, any second, I'll look here somewhere. I've got a little budget down here. Not find it. Just bear with me. And
all original photographs, guys. A lot of detail in the mare here as well.
Right, here we go. Now, look at the tunnel there. What we're trying to reproduce here is a small section of what becomes known as Tunnel Town. And this is where people actually lived during the war. And we believe someone lived down here for the whole 4 years, never once went back to the tunnel surface, or they back to the floods in 4 years. So I've got various stories regarding that. We've got one story of a young lady who lived in St Patrick's Road. Now, St Patrick's Road is 10 Pearson Road, and she literally could have been from her front door, she could have been in this tunnel in less than a minute. But she came in here 24th of August, 1940, with her 2 small children, and neither she or her children ever went out of the tunnel system again at the end of 1944. They spent 4 years down here living in semi-darkness. And we know that because her sister lived 2 doors away, still with her parents, and she worked in the town. Whenever they're air raid, she come into the tunnels, because when she come into the tunnels during air raid, she go visit her sister. Her sister then would give her a list of supplies that she needed next time she come down. And that's apparently how they kept her supplied right until the end of the year. Now, can you imagine living down here for 4 years in semi-darkness and never once come back to the surface? Amazing, isn't it?
It is remarkable.
Now, there's all sorts of stories down here. I'll talk to you about old Shaky that lived down here. Now, another character that we know was here was Frank. Now, Frank was a vagrant. He didn't have a permanent address in the town until he moved in the tunnels. But he was a very clever violinist. He made his living playing violin on the streets of Ramsgate. So when the tunnels first opened, he'd come down here with his violin to entertain the people, make a few coppers. But we're told he's very quickly joined with other musicians. So then instead of just having a violinist, suddenly got a full band going. So now you've got a full band, next thing you need is a dance floor. And they actually constructed a dance floor at the railway track. And the stories go that there's having parties and dances nearly every night. But in the end it got a bit out of hand, apparently, and the council stepped in and said, sorry, we can't allow this. Just the men or the women are not going to work, the kids are not going to school, kids are up partying or dancing all night. So you've got to put a stop to it. But you can have your parties, you can have your dances, but twice a week only.